Hey, it's your boy the Crypto Goon, and shout out to all my crypto goons for pulling up once again. XRP, one that we've been talking about for since day one, has actually moved up one spot on CoinMarketCap. But let's hop into it so we can talk about it. Now, as you can see, we have now pushed above Tether as far as the third largest cryptocurrency in the world currently. And in my opinion, one of the cryptocurrencies that has the best technology behind it. When it comes to investing in cryptocurrency for all of my newbies, it is not always about the hype, but it is about the real world use. And in my opinion, I know people are going to throw rocks, but I think that XRP has a better use in the world than Bitcoin and Ethereum. That's just my opinion. And I know that a lot of people, obviously Bitcoin is considered a store of value like gold, but XRP is actually one of the only ones that has real world use, something that can be used in the real world to make humans' lives better. And in the future, I think that XRP will end up number 2, bypassing Ethereum. But let's talk and let's actually hop into this chart and check it out. Now, for a while, we've been talking about these triangle patterns, which is my number one, or tied with number one and number two, between Fibonacci and triangle patterns, as a way to forecast where a cryptocurrency is headed. And currently we were in a very large bullish triangle pattern, but we have since broken out around December, and then we consolidated going sideways. Now, currently we're looking at the monthly. So my previous videos, let me break this down to the daily. I talked about these this ascending and descending channel, ascending right here, descending right here. And, channels aren't really my favorite. They can go 50-50. You never know if they're going to break down or if they're going to break up, unfortunately. Now, with this particular one, this ascending, it broke down, and then we just broke out of this descending channel right now. Now, I'm looking for XRP to head up and break its previous highs and eventually its all-time high. Okay, so as you can see right here, we're actually creating a new trend or trend line headed upwards. Now, I could see this doing something like this, right? The usual zigzag, right? Where it's like up, down, up, until it reaches essentially the previous highs. Okay. Now, during this bull run, I'm looking for XRP to actually head to around $6, between $6.30 and $6.40. Now, the way that I came up with this is using the previous lows and this high right here, and this Fibonacci is reversed. Okay, so you can see right here, reverse it. And I always use the 141. You can check my previous videos and I show the accuracy of the 141 and just the Fibonacci period and how we can use it to project price. Now, obviously, if we get to the $6.30 range, that breaks the all-time high of XRP. Okay, so currently we're right now we're at $2.56, and the previous high is about $3.30. So I'm looking for that to break this bull run. These bull runs don't typically last that long. I'm looking or aiming towards around August or September for this thing to hit and then have another correction. And it's not hard for this thing to make these highs, right? I mean, if you look at these large candle patterns, like this here, it doesn't really take much for it to happen. But just looking at the coin market cap, we had a lot of money pour in. And currently in the past 7 days, we are up 22.57%. So it really doesn't take much to get this thing moving. Now, there's an interesting article here that talks about, what could cause, on the fundamental side, right? We just talked about the technical side, but on the fundamental side, what could cause XRP to head up? And there are several things that I want to point out. So, right here in the middle of the article, it states on Wednesday, XRP was at $2.62 in late morning trading UK time. Other factors potentially affecting the price: the fate of U.S. President Donald Trump's on again, off again trade war, crypto policy making in Washington, and whether the Federal Reserve will cut interest rates. Adoption of XRP by institutional investors is also a variable. The renewed interest in XRP has coincided with the Security and Exchange Commission's disclosure on May 8th that it was settling its long-running case against Ripple and two of its senior executives. Now, XRP will be officially the only cryptocurrency with regulatory clarity. Bitcoin doesn't have that. Ethereum doesn't have that. And it's kind of odd, right, that your largest Bitcoin, I mean, the largest cryptocurrency, which is Bitcoin, has never been scrutinized by the federal government. Why is that? Because they created it. This Satoshi thing, is BS. The federal government created this as a project. Okay, there's been NSA declassified documents that were released that talked about this. Now we can put our tinfoil hats on if we want, but the proof is in the pudding. It is what it is. The SEC case outcome is the pivot point. Beyond that, broader adoption by financial institutions could drive demand. And this is something that is needed, right? So we know that, like, for example, during COVID, people wanted, or people were getting like these enhanced unemployment checks or whatever, right? But we know that the banking system currently only operates in a window of 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. for the most part, and they're closed on weekends. You can't get a wire transfer on the weekend. Well, the XRP, the technology, is something that can solve that. It provides liquidity, real-time payments, and it can be, you can use XRP 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. It's almost like a really large Cash App, how you can send your friends Cash App, right? And for anybody that's never used XRP, it's really almost instant, and it's cheap to send money back and forth. Okay. Now, one other thing that I want to talk about, that I always talk about when it comes to knowing when to get in and out of cryptocurrencies, if you haven't sharpened your skills with charts, is the popularity and interest, right? So this is Google Trends, and specifically this is the YouTube search. So as you can see, XRP is starting to inch up. Okay, so May 4th to the 10th, we were at 34, and then, May 11th to the 17th, we've reached 43. Okay, now, when it comes to cryptocurrency, when these things hit all-time highs, you start getting, notifications from Coinbase and Uphold and all these other places, right? That is when the dumb money enters. The reason why I talk about these chart patterns is so that we can enter when people are not paying attention. I talked about this, whether it's XRP, whether it's XLM, whether it's Dogecoin, any of these cryptocurrencies, how you can use the Fibonacci and chart patterns and get in at an optimal place. Because once this thing hits the news that it made all-time high, and a new all-time high, or we reached the all-time highs, that's when liquidity starts to set in. So for example, this big candle right here, okay, this is November of 24, and this is December of 24. As you can see, December of 24 was when we started to go sideways, and you started to see some of these red candles. Well, if you match that with what's on this chart, right? Come on, man, there it goes. See right here, December 1st through the 7th of 2024, XRP reached 100. And then that's when it started to come down. And as you can see, this thing kind of started to go sideways, right? That's because the larger whales started liquidating. And that's when you should not be entering into the market. Now, I'm always dollar cost averaging into XRP because I believe in the technology. However, if you're someone that wants to make money and then liquidate your position to get out, pay attention to the interest over time. This is a graph of dumb money. Complete idiots that don't understand how these markets work. And you can use this as a gauge of when to get in and when to get out. Okay. So, if you were looking at XRP when we were down here in the 25 range, which is really the best time to get in when the interest is under 25, meaning really nobody is searching it or talking about it. This is the best time to get in, right? So let's just take, for example, if we look at May 12th of 2024, right? So May of 2024. Right here. Okay, this was at 51 cents. We are currently at $2.55. Think about that, right? You could have, taken your position then, and then boom. Once we hit this large candle, you've almost 4x your money just by paying attention to what the dumb money is doing. Okay, so I just wanted to point this out because I think it's something that's vital. You won't see anybody else in the cryptocurrency world talking about this because it's something that is not really known by a lot of people. But you have to understand that a lot of these cryptocurrencies are driven by the internet, right? Whatever news is coming out, whatever popular talking head is talking about it, whatever celebrity, when you have those influences, it can push these markets because all it takes for somebody like Kylie Jenner. If Kylie Jenner got online and said, "Hey, I'm buying XRP," it would skyrocket, maybe to like $20. We've seen Kylie Jenner completely crush Snapchat, their stock, right? So these are things that you should pay attention to, right? So that you can better position yourself in these markets, all right? So let's hop over to the crypto bubbles. So on the month, we're looking pretty good, very good. And on the week also, we're looking good. Now, a lot of these coins, I really don't pay any attention to. Some of them I will analyze from a technical standpoint. But for the most part, right, there is no fundamentals behind some of these coins. Some of these coins are meme coins. They don't have any real world use or technology. For anybody out there that wants to know whether or why they should put money into cryptocurrency, look at the real world use case. Can you as an individual use the technology behind any of this stuff? I get a lot of rocks thrown at me because I'm not a huge Bitcoin fan. Although I get it, it's a store of value. But if you were to ever send money to somebody, which is what cryptocurrency is supposed to be for, a new currency, Bitcoin is incredibly slow and expensive for you to send money to somebody versus XRP versus XLM, right? And, again, it's a store of value. I have some Bitcoin. Cool. But again, ask yourself, look at this like a stock. For example, do you have an iPhone, right? If you have an iPhone, you probably should have Apple stock. Do you have a Apple computer, right? What kind of car do you drive? What are things that you really use in your life? That makes sense when it comes to investing in something. These meme coins, like for example, the Trump coin, it has no real world utility. You're essentially making Donald Trump rich, okay? When you look at some of these other ones, the E-News and the Doge coins, right? These are just gambling plays. They're not real world technologies, and a lot of them will not be around in the future. XLM, XRP have a future as far as being able to send money back and forth. They can be used to settle or to provide the liquidity to settle transactions in real time. These other coins, for the most part, do not have that capacity. Okay. A lot of them are just bullshit. Okay. I'll be frank. Most of them are bullshit unless they're like AI technology, which some of them like TARS AI, that makes total sense. But outside of that, the majority of these have no real world use case. And I think that in the future, there will be a crypto bubble where how we saw back in, when was that, like 2008, 2009, when we had that thing with Enron. I can't remember the exact date. Somebody that's old enough, correct me if I'm wrong. Where you have all of these companies on the stock market that just imploded and they just went bankrupt, went out of business. We're going to have that same thing in cryptocurrency. You're going to have these cryptocurrency companies that just completely go out of business because they have no use. They're all going to hit zero because they have no real world use. There's really no real leadership, sound leadership that are trying to get these things implemented into government and, real world activities, right? So I just wanted to just bring you all this. I hope this is something that is helpful. And again, this bull run, I'm looking for XRP to go to $6.34. Now, long term, right? Let's talk long term really quick. Long term, okay, so I'm going to go from this low to this high. Okay, I see XRP based on the Fibonacci, $61.49. I'm sorry, 44 cents. Now, here's another way you can look at it, because generally, when it comes to cryptocurrency, a lot of these bull runs are essentially the same size as far as how much they go up during bull runs and during major events. So if we measure from this low of this bull run to this high, and we go here, look, it puts us right at or very close to the 141. Now, I have a lot of people that say, Man, this stuff doesn't even make sense. I implore you, go look at my previous videos. I show you the before, I tell you the before it happens, and then I make videos showing you when they hit their targets, during the after. I've been using Fibonacci for a while. You're not going to find anyone else using this in the capacity that I use it in. Okay, this is something that I've been doing for a long time. Fibonacci is just numbers. Okay, it's not something, it doesn't have to be difficult. It is something very simple, but it uses numbers. Okay, and markets are a measure of human emotion. Okay, but it's all math. Our brains run on a frequency. Our feelings are technically frequencies. Our blood, everything runs on a frequency. Okay, and it appears in these markets. And these are tools that you can use to and I hate using the word time to market because, trying to time the market, you can be burned. But using the Fibonacci, you can mathematically make decisions using mathematics. I'm sorry, to better position yourself in these markets. OK, again, it's your boy, the Crypto Goon. I really appreciate y'all. We're on the road to 10,000 subscribers. And without y'all, this would not be possible. And it's your boy, the #1 goon, the Crypto Goon. Crypto Goon out.